Excited to hear more about this program. I met Jamie when he presented and brought some birds to us a couple of years ago. We had an outdoor program at the park at Potawatomi Park on the bayou. During COVID, when we couldn't be indoors, and so we just came up with an idea to have it outdoors, and that was a very popular program. Lots of families came to see the live birds. But I admitted to Tanner, who I met tonight, that I've been birding for 5 years now, and I've yet to go down to the Outdoor Discovery Center. So it's on my list this spring to get down there. And those Wilson snipe were calling to me too, but I couldn't go when you reported them. So they are both going to talk to us about the programs that are run at the Outdoor Discovery Center, and all of their bio is in the description of the program. Have paid attention to that. And so I am going to just ask them to come up and tell us what they can. And thank you for coming tonight.
Yes, absolutely. Give me a hot second here to switch over to our other presentation that Tanner and I have assembled for you. So my name is Jamie Krupka. I have met a number of you over the years. Of course, we've brought our birds and wildlife to Washington Island's Audubon in the past. Today, I don't think it's less exciting, but maybe not as engaging. Sorry, I don't have like a hawk or a snake or something cool to share with you. But we do want to share, Tanner and I do want to share with you the things that we do at Outdoor Discovery Center if you're not familiar with it. So we're going to kind of go through the things that we do at ODC and give you a little bit of a background about how we use education and animals and wildlife to inspire the next generation of nature explorers out there. Before I forget, I brought a bunch of stuff with me. There's if you got any kids you want a recycling coloring book, got a couple of brochures here. We have, we're a 24-year-old organization, and we did a 20-year anniversary book that gives a little bit of the history of ODC. We have some extras. If you'd care to have a book to take home, please help yourself, okay? And then there's even a watershed book that we've made that supports our Project Clarity efforts, which is something that we'll talk about here shortly. So there's a whole bunch of stuff on the table up here. Clean me out if you want to. Take what you'd like, okay? So what we're looking at here is our organization in a nutshell. So we have a lot going on. We started a couple of years back, just about 24 years ago, as just Outdoor Discovery Center. And we've grown to be all of these things. So as I talk, I'll share with you some of the aspects of who we are, but know that we are a conservation and education organization. So those being the most important parts of what we do, we dabble in lots of things, but always under that umbrella of conservation and education. From trips to programs to conservation work that Tanner and his team do. So this is just who we are in the complex nature of our organization for you to see. So we have been around since 2000. We are, all things considered, a young organization, but we've grown. I was the second employee. Started off in 2000. I was employed, started working for ODC in 2003. And so it's crazy to think that I've been there almost 21 years. Whew. And we're still growing. We still have lots to offer. So I was the second employee. Now we're up to, I think, 135-ish employees. So we have a lot of things going on, not just our education work that we'll talk about here this evening, but more like preschools. We have a lot of nature-based preschools. So here's kind of the rundown of the history of who we are. We started as a Ducks Unlimited chapter, and this group of mostly white hunters, right? They were like, we want to do something. We want to do something educational. And we're not really educators. So they partnered with the local intermediate school district, the Ottawa Area ISD, excuse me, I skipped a step. So the Ducks Unlimited guys wanted to create something where their money was staying local. So it used to be that all the money they'd raise in a year would go to support duck habitat in the Hudson Bay or something like that, which is all great, but they wanted to see a more local impact. So they created this group called Wildlife Unlimited of Ottawa and Allegan counties. And that group then, in the late 90s, was formed the Outdoor Discovery Center in conjunction with the Ottawa Area ISD. So again, we've grown from there. We became, when our parent organization, this Wildlife Unlimited, ceased to exist, kind of became part of who we are, and that kind of faded into the sunset, and then we brought on the Macataw Greenway, which I'll talk about, and that actually became part of who we are. And today, we started in 2018, but now we are the ODC Network, which incorporates all of the things. So here's the list of all the different businesses that we operate. We have a bunch of education work that we do. We have 3 nature-based preschools. We're developing a nature-based early childhood center at the Gentex facility in Seattle. We have other consulting work we do. We run the DeGraff Nature Center for the city of Holland. So we'll kind of touch on these things as I go through. This is, again, another pictorial history. Starting here, 2000 Outdoor Discovery Center. Here's our footprint. Okay, not very big. We had a small building. It was a township hall that had been kind of thrown to the wayside by the local township, and we said we're going to turn that into something. And just this past year, we replaced it. So for 20 some odd years, we had this old township hall we were kind of living out of as our primary education space. So quickly, we were able to grow. You can see the implementation of different facilities that we have. Now to this day, we're at over 710 acres that we physically own, and I'll touch upon them, and lots of resources that our community can use. So when we look at where we do our work, there's a couple of slides that will illustrate that. So here is Outdoor Discovery Center, 2 looks at the airport. Every morning when I drive into work, I come down River Avenue, and I go around this, there's a road that's kind of a bell curve that goes around the end of the runway here. American woodcock and snipe, like just sit on this fence line. If you're ever down, it's just in Allegan County, if you're a county birder. This fence that's on the east end of the Tulip City Airport, snipe, pretty much from middle April to the middle of May, just sitting on the fence at the moment. So cool. I can stop sometimes take pictures. But this is Outdoor Discovery Center. We have properties that include a mitigation bank. We have some just general greenway properties where we've had people donate land to us for the sake of green preservation. We work with state, municipal, and county agencies to preserve green spaces. That's what these stripy properties are. And then we own a couple of properties. This is one that's called Rabbit River. It's part of the Kalamazoo River Greenway. So we have a 66-acre property down in Hamilton and a just under 300-acre property in Hamilton that just this past October opened to the public. Great birding. Actually, there's nesting cerulean warblers down here. So when I was there this past May, we were down there with some DNR folks and just walking through the forest down there, it's right along the river, singing cerulean warblers at the junction. Yes, sir.
Is that around Allegan State Game there? Or?
It's not quite. So Allegan State Game Area is way down here. So it's even closer to Holland than that. Good question. So like here's the city of Saugatuck and Douglas. So it's just due east of there. So even closer than the state game area. And more easily accessible, not as much poison ivy. If you've ever been along the M89 bridge and you're trying to get down to those ceruleans down there, and you're climbing over lawns that have poison ivy on them, you'll have a little bit more enjoyable cerulean experience. I think if you go visit Smith's, the junction is called, and free, no for the public. We see a lot of people in our education work. We have this year, I think these numbers are actually last year's number. No, these are the right ones. I thought the number was 68, but maybe I was misremembering. 58,000. We have a lot of people that we see in total programs, and in addition, we see schools and groups of students that come out repeatedly. So the same kid might visit our center 10 times, and so that's where this number goes up to this number. It's because the same kid came 10 times or something like that. We do have 3 nature-based preschools. It's saying in here, it's a birth to 5. The birth to 3 is our child care facility for our staff, but we're expanding that to beyond our own staff as well. Primarily, Muskegon, Ottawa, and Allegan we do work. Things that we do for conservation and education is this pretty big idea, this Project Clarity. So this was an effort to that was started more than 10 years ago. It was started to create a to improve the water quality of Lake Macataw in Holland. A lot of kids growing up in the Holland area, they would refer to it as Lake Macataw Toilet because it was a very foul lake, regular algal blooms that made it so you couldn't go into the water. And there was a real effort by the community. This is a grassroots thing by the community. There were some major investors, but by the community to improve the water quality of the lake. And since we started in 2008, we have seen a very steady drop in the total parts per billion of phosphates. And that is in a lot of efforts related to best management practices with businesses, with the agricultural industry, and a little bit of Tanner will kind of touch on this too, trying to retain stormwater in ways so that we don't have the phosphates running into the lake, which then create the algal blooms, which make it not a very desirable body of water to fish or recreate or just view wildlife in. So pretty excited to see. Our goal is this 70%, and we're getting there. So every now and then you see these bumps. These are often associated with rain events. When we have very large rain events, a lot of the phosphates get washed downriver. So we can't control rain events, obviously, but we're seeing a good trajectory. The Project Clarity is in conjunction with the Macatawa River Greenway. So here's Lake Macatawa in Holland State Park over here. Ducks, you'll see some, let's see, I think there was white-winged scoter that was seen over here recently. The Pine Creek Trail, which you might now know as Stuyvesant Trails, is right here. This is all part of these little green blips here, are all part of these greenway properties that we have ownership of, or we work with the townships and the municipalities to create green corridors for wildlife. I haven't seen any otters. That is awesome. But I know that we have beaver activity and lots of muskrats. We see nesting sandhill cranes in the Macatawa Marsh. So an improvement on overall wildlife, the flora and fauna of the watershed is the goal by creating these green corridors. Am I wrong? We haven't seen any otters on the Macatawa. Graves and traps. Well, that's Kalamazoo though. Okay, so not in the Macatawa. We hope. There was somebody a couple of years ago that told me that they had seen evidence of them at Stuyvesant. I couldn't verify that. So another greenway that we work with is called the Kalamazoo River Greenway, and this is where we do see a lot more wildlife. We have much more habitats around it, and so here we've got, for reference, there's Spenville, Saugatuck, our River Junction Preserve. This little stretch. Oh, sorry, this one right here. This is the Rabbit. Yeah. So that's the Rabbit River right here, and this is the main Kalamazoo. So the River Junction Preserve is here, and then if you go up the Rabbit, I think this way about over here is where the Rabbit River Preserve is. I believe that's where those are. I apologize. They're not labeled on this very well. Tanner, they know better. Was that close? Close enough. I appreciate close enough. Whatever is right here is that junction. Test time. Tanner, questions, Anyways, we have great properties in addition to the other greenway partners that we have along these areas. Again, green corridors. This is a really healthy way for an entire habitat to improve, is by creating these green corridors for wildlife to move through, birds and other wildlife, of course. So a lot of the work we do is related to education, not just on these properties, but maybe primarily that outdoor discovery center. So we are an experience-based education place. So we want kids to fish. This is my daughter. It's so fun to see this picture. She is now 20 years old and a sophomore in college. It makes me sad to see that picture because I remember her when she was 9, But we do a lot of experience-based learning, from handling wildlife. We go to events and festivals, catching bugs, catching fish. We do have a lot of live animals that we use for education. This was a born and raised in captivity skunk that we use for education. We have a rehabbed porcupine. We have a born and raised in captivity red fox. We have an opossum that was rescued. And then, of course, we have turtles and snakes and frogs and things like that we use for education. So we're always trying to provide experiences with wildlife. There's no better way to make that little girl not scared of a snake than by handling a born and raised in captivity black rat snake. I don't think she's going to remember that, but I guarantee you her parents that took a picture of it will. And again, we're working with kids in all environments. There's schoolyard work that we do. This is actually one of our preschools. We're in the wintertime, we're ice fishing here. We're helping kids with kayaking, always providing some sort of an experience. this is the most uncomfortable thing for me to do, is to talk at you without having a snake or a turtle or a bird on my hand. I need props, and my props are the pictures, unfortunately, but we want it to be an experience, and that is what we try to relate each time we do an educational program. The educational work we do has blossomed over the last 5 years. It has gone crazy. So we have demand out of our team to help teachers create nature-based learning experiences in their classrooms. We can't be everywhere. I can't multiply my staff to be in all these places. So what we do is we have a business line that we offer called the ODC Network, where we work with teachers to help them provide that nature-based learning experience. We have contracts with Grand Haven and Holland and West Ottawa and Jenison and Fenville and Douglas, Douglas schools, where we go in and teach teachers how to get outside of the four walls of their classroom and be nature-based in some degree. I remember Miller coming and visiting at Outdoor Discovery. I still very vividly remember when you held a bird for your class.
It was a tree swallow.
We talked about that. Tanner, do you remember when we talked about that at our recent planning session? And I talked about one of my favorite moments was a teacher handling a bird during a program. That's her. Really? Yes. That is one of my favorite moments.
Well, thank you. You know, I still have that video, and I cried. It was so meaningful to me, and my kids were so moved by the fact that I cried that that's all they could talk about the rest of the day is like, why did you cry over that bird? So thank you.
Because I want to inspire teachers to be like you and be inspired by the nature, and then to instill upon them, their students, the love of the bird, the turtle, the snake, the frog, whatever, the butterfly, the habitat. And so that's what we're doing. We're going into schools and we're helping the teachers become kind of, master naturalist level. We're trying. And we help them with lessons. We give them opportunities to work with their students. We work alongside the teachers to help them with journaling activities. So we're getting into writing, and we're getting into math, and we're getting to all of the ELA types of things that a teacher's asked to do as an educator. We're working with them to turn it. Look at that. She's got a coat and hat, gloves on, or no gloves, but she's still journaling. And she's having a blast. I remember this little girl. I took this picture, I think. She was having a great time. So that is one way that we can't be everywhere. But if we can teach the teachers, then we feel like that is part of our mission. If we put ourselves out of a job because now we have all Mrs. Millers out there handling wildlife and taking their kids outside, I won't sleep well at night because we've done our job. We also do a lot of work in the summertime, where the summer school experience that the kids have is incrementally different than the summer school experience that you may have heard about, maybe not experienced, hopefully, heard about as kids, where this is learning. That's learning. They're outside. That kid's learning. So we have these moments where we go in and we help with math and language, and we the English basics, reading. They're sitting outside reading a book. This girl right here, she caught this bluegill. Now she's going to weigh the bluegill. She's going to do some math related to statistics and the populations of the bluegill. And she doesn't know she's learning. She's catching fish, but she's having a great time doing it. So that's another way that during the summer months, we help prevent summer slide by working with districts to incorporate those kinds of experiences that support their educational goals. And not to be, this is my last thing before Tanner talks, but we also lead trips because it's not just about the kids. We want you to have fun too. And so you may have traveled. I know one person in the room that has traveled with me before a couple of times, but we do have experiences that we offer for adults, experienced adults down to, we've had, the 30-somethings or something go with us. Quite often it's the experienced adults that travel with us because they have either the means, let's say experienced adults. Yeah, you either have the means or the time to travel. Okay. And so we do have experiences that we'll take people. We've been to Tanzania. We're going again next year. Ecuador. We've been there 7 times, I believe. I was just there last March. Alaska. This has become a very popular one for us. So we actually have a great relationship with this boat right here versus 1,000, 1,500 people on a great big ship. We actually have a relationship with this particular boat called the Seawolf, and it's limited to 16 people. And they go out and they take us into places. They're the only small private boat that is permitted to be in Glacier Bay, leading tours. So it's called the Seawolf. And so, again, getting people out to these things, consider adults. And of course, with our national parks, I'm going to be visiting Utah this September. We try to get people out to explore those national parks. And one of my favorite newer programs, I say newer because it's maybe only been about 6-7 years, is very women specific. So we have female staff. This is one of them, Ashley, I don't know where Joy is. She was probably taking a picture. But we'll take people on trips, and specifically women. Our women staff will lead women on these nature adventures because they don't need some guy telling them what to do. Let's be honest. Okay. So the women lead the trip, they organize the trip, they lead the trip. This is just this past year there at Glacier National Park. That's Joy there. She's one of our leaders. And they just go have a great time. Okay. That ends my portion of what we're going to talk about, because Tanner wants to talk a little bit about stuff, but I'll give you an opportunity to ask questions. I didn't really pause long enough for you to ask questions. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Funding comes from.
So we have a pretty diverse portfolio, if you want to call that. A lot of individual donors. We write a lot of grants. We actually have a grant writer. We have a development team, and we do have memberships that people take out. Very diverse. So it's not, we get some government dollars. Like there are some monies that we get to support our programs, especially the educational programs that we get that are coming from Michigan Department of Education to support our summer education work. Individuals to support projects that we're doing. So it's quite broad. It's a little bit of this. Yes.
So there's the Macataw River Greenway, I guess it's called. It's Sam Kalamazoo River.
Yep.
Right.
There is, but it's not one that, great question. It's not the one that we are connected with. I know Ottawa County Parks is am I correct on? Yeah. So Ottawa County Parks, I think, is the lead on that one for the Grand River Greenway. And I don't know how far that project goes inland. Anybody have an idea that? It does go all the way to Grand where? Grand Rapids. Okay. So there's probably people that also go Grand Rapids to Grand Ledge and whatnot. I don't know. But so Grand Rapids to the lake shore, there is a Grand River Greenway as well.
Do you have any Spanish speaking programs?
We do. We actually offer a Spanish speaking camp. We have staff who we very intentionally hired because they are multilingual. And we're actually improving our signage or interpretive work so that it includes bilingual interpretation. And we have staff in our preschools that are bilingual. So we don't have a bilingual classroom. We don't have like a Spanish immersion preschool. We simply have students in our preschool, and we incorporate a Spanish experience into their learning, regardless of what their background is. We have teachers that will use other languages. We're actually starting to implement or trying to use American Sign Language as well. So incorporating that as much as possible, because again, especially at the very early age, early learners can learn, they're sponges, they can learn all sorts of stuff. So we're trying to incorporate languages as much as possible. Good question.
What's your annual budget?
That's a tricky question to answer because it's always skewed by the project at hand. I think this year, because we have a very large project associated with expansion of our preschools, our early childhood programs, we have 3 currently, and we're growing to have 1 or 2 more. So this year's budget, 24's budget, might be about $12 million. But it's very heavy on the development side of some of these facilities. So the actual operating dollars going into that kind of skews your perspective, maybe. So
there's a tuition involved in it.
For the preschools, correct? Yes. There may be a day. I know the governor just tried to push the idea of having free preschool, free early childhood learning for every kid in the state. We don't know how that'll affect us, but we plan on still offering early childhood learning. If it's state supported or not, I couldn't say. That's not going to be something we can control. Questions? Anyone else? Questions? If you think of other things, don't hesitate to I should have offered that right off the bat. It's not an interruption for me. I have no idea what I was going to say, and I don't know what I did say. So I don't have a script I'm going off of.
We feel, don't worry.
Okay, good. That's good. I'm going to go back and check to see what I said. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over here to Tanner.
Thanks for having us. Like Jamie said, he did kind of a good job showing you the big picture. Conservation education are two big sides of it. I'm very much on the boots on the ground conservation side of things. So this conservation services business line, I direct that. Quick background on me. I studied biology, natural resources at Central Michigan, graduated in 2014, bounced around a little bit. Always kind of felt a pull to West Michigan, so took a seasonal job at ODC, went back in 2017, and then basically just refused to leave, so that's been pretty effective. Yeah, so I've been there about 7 years now. Feel like I've kind of found a home doing what I love to do. Actually met my wife working there too, so for me.
Tell us about your team, because that's unique. I mean, we talk about this business line, but he has a very small team, and he does a huge volume of work.
Yeah, so really we're 3 full-time staff right now, kind of handling the management of ODC properties in addition to this business line. Manage about 3,000 acres total. That number is actually a little low compared to where we're at now, so certainly have our hands full, but keeps us really busy. So
You got a burn coming up?
yeah, tried to burn our Rabbit River Preserve down in Hamilton, and then a little bit of ODC as well. We try to cycle it sort of in some form of burning at ODC every year. But kind of what I'm looking to go over today is just kind of a big picture overview of conservation services, main goals, and then kind of the bulk of the presentation is how we're looking to reshape conventional landscaping, especially in the commercial setting. I mean, we meet a ton of folks that are tired of mowing acres upon acres of lawn, so kind of help reshift their mindset to show them there are options available using a foundation of native plants. Get into a little bit of why we recommend planting native, and then we'll kind of dive into ongoing projects and a couple of future projects overview. Yeah, so like I said, very much our boots on the ground conservation business division, all associated with restoring and improving habitat. So these are kind of the 3 pillars we go by, conservation, restoring, reconstructing natural areas wherever possible, and in general, just reconnecting people to the outdoors to kind of have that connection. So they'll further support this work we're doing. Again, this is kind of the main buckets that our general day-to-day work will fall in. That ecological restoration can account for these grassland restorations I'm talking about, installing, maintaining those, but then everything from wetland maintenance, native landscaping, pretty much the whole spectrum, and just a lot of general property management contracts, a little bit of consulting as well, which just involves site assessments for homeowners looking to implement some of these practices on their own properties. So we'll provide advice there. This is kind of a snapshot of where we work. You'll see it's pretty heavy in a 15-mile radius right around the greater Holland area, but we will go as far as Grand Haven, as far south as South Haven, and then a little east of Grand Rapids as well. Yeah, like I said, with the 3-man full-time crew, we definitely keep pretty busy throughout the entire season. And again, this is kind of some more images of some projects we got going on. You can see those first couple here with just the overgrown turf grass. Couple cool finished projects on the right there. What we're trying to support in the community. Again, just rethinking what can be done, eliminating that lawn maintenance, bringing in native plants as a foundation, which will bring in the insects, which will bring in the birds, which I'm sure most of you are more interested in that. I just tend to focus heavy on the plant side to kind of create that environment. Just a little history. I always like to include these, some great historic maps. This one on the left here, kind of you can see that sand, kind of yellow color, because a lot of our historic grasslands. And so it's not something generally people associate to Michigan, but it was a key part. Right? Pre-settlement, estimate somewhere around 2 million acres, and we're down to I think less than 2% of that is what they say now. So. So get into the why, and I guess the first one that's not shown in this graphic would be, keeping that part of history. There are insects, birds that depend on these habitats, so keep them around. Yeah, the big one, kind of these first two encompassing that is the lawn is very much an accepted form of maintenance. I mean, there's certainly a time and place for it, but on that big scale, really the cost comparison to restore an acre of these native grasslands compared to maintaining an acre of lawn are pretty comparable, except you don't have the back end maintenance or the back end benefit, I should say, of once these grasslands are established, they're pretty low maintenance with just a burner and remow every couple years after that establishment period. Yeah, the carbon sequestration is a huge one. I mean, deep rooted plants, maintaining a lot of that. And along with that, improved water filtration, like you mentioned, with the stormwater, helping solve those issues. Then kind of to go with these last two, the aesthetics. I mean, there's certainly value there. You're going to have blooms throughout the entire growing season. And, I'm definitely more comfortable in these environments than these speaking environments, but, take a walk, feel your cortisol dropping, you notice things you don't normally notice. And it's just a really cool thing. Insects don't always get the glory. Obviously, birds are a little more glorious at times, but very important, obviously. 1/3 of the food we eat and 90% of flowering plants in general, depending on pollination from insects, birds, the whole spectrum. Our native bumblebees, declined massively past 30, 40 years. And again, these grasslands go away. We're losing a lot of these host plants like milkweed, monarch butterfly, bluefin or threatened common blue butterfly, and a lot of native grasses will be host plant for some of our skippers as well. Again, this is just kind of an image I like to show. It's been being utilized at different stages, and then a lot of these, like the echinacea in the middle there, those will leave hollow stems all year, so that'll be insect overwintering habitat. Birds can pick away at the seeds all winter, so even when it's not the growing season, it's still serving a major benefit for the community. And I had to get into the depressing bird stats. I couldn't do a presentation without it, but obviously they've all been impacted with habitat fragmentation, habitat loss, but grassland birds have been impacted heavily as well. With down 50% since the 70s, which is really sad to see. And I actually stole the slide from Lucas. I was working on a similar one, and I remember he did it for a presentation we did, so I just threw it right in there, kind of showing a lot of these birds that don't tend to see as much as more, but we're dedicated to preserving that grassland habitat for them.
I will say that the conservation work that Tanner's been doing at our Dragonflies Discovery Preschool has helped support some of these. So we're taking old runway from the Tulip City, or the Park Township Airport, and actually we're seeing grasshopper sparrows. We had Vesper sparrows singing from the fence line of the township, and Savannah sparrows. So increasing that habitat, even right on one of our preschools, which is work that he's doing, has been huge.
So a quick note before I dive into some project overviews here. We kind of use restoring as a blanket term, but in the case of a lot of our remnants being gone, mostly we're looking at sites that are pretty much lawn or former ag fields, so it's more of a reconstruction project. We're kind of matching soils, full sun, maybe have a couple of remnant, large season grasses around, but in the case of restoring our few remnants, this is actually about a 10-acre oak savanna we worked on over on the east side of Grand Rapids. Really cool. You got some actually cool topography here, south facing, so it's pretty good sun, some open space trees, but what's pretty neglected, getting invaded by a lot of cool season grasses, Queen Anne's lace, spotted knapweed, and then huge, massive clumps of Asian bittersweet that were just kind of smothered and everything. So we started working there in 2020. Get mostly the Asian bittersweet under control so we could restore the key lost ecological function of fire, which was crucial to these grassland habitats, you know, back then, whether by natural causes or Native Americans using fire, crucial management tool for prairies and savannas. But you can see, did our first burn in April 2022, and you can see 2022, how it kind of came back. Monarda, Fistulosa explosion, brought in a ton of pollinators, a ton of songbirds with that. And just some more photos of the same thing. So you kind of see standing pockets of the bergamot here. You can see the seed heads. But then when you compare it to just the same year post burn, that also unearthed a few things that we didn't see there before. You know, a couple milkweed species, some New England asparagus.
Did you add the natural plants after it was burned? I mean, did you bring in the seeds? Just
You know, essentially lets those warm season native grasses compete along with the forbs. So just kind of managed it for who knows how long, you know, 50, 60 years, and then you return that lost ecological function. And that's what's cool about, you know, compared to a reconstruction project, when you're a little less work generally. It's not a hard reset, so to speak.
yeah, a lot less work.
A similar situation actually down at Diamond Springs Golf Course in Hamilton. A lot of these rough areas had pockets of warm season grasses, kind of remnant patches of little blue stem, broom sedge, switchgrass, and we've been working on invasive species down there for a few years. And actually talking with them, that was something they wanted to promote in the rough areas. So we're working on a regimen of dry burning there to help stimulate that, and possibly replanting in a few areas. But I'm a little bit of a paradox myself as a conservation professional. I'm dedicated to restoring natural areas, but at the same time, I'm an avid golfer. So be able to kind of see golf courses doing the right things with that, and see a lot of opportunity to kind of keep building on that, and hope to see more of that in the community, honestly. Iowa Board of Public Works, it's one of our oldest clients. We've been working with them for a few years. This was their Holland Energy Park site, so just off Chicago Drive in Holland. We actually didn't seed this. I believe it was seeded in 2016, but quickly after, kind of got invaded by mostly spotted knapweed, which is allelopathic, so it's going to inhibit the growth of a lot of stuff. So it was neglected for a few years. We started managing it in 2019 through a regimen of carefully timed mowing and targeted invasive species treatments. You can see where it's kind of at today, which is very cool. These are both around June, July. So you got the gray-headed coneflower, full bloom, still some monarda in there, Canada wild rye, which will hold seed heads all winter, and just kind of different images of the same area. You can see some butterfly weed, some hoary vervain in the back there. But if you haven't been to this site, it's kind of an off the radar one. It's a cool little prairie, and then there's some wetlands on the north side of the property, so there'll be a lot of different birds. I mean, bald eagles hang out there, a lot of different hawks, a lot of waterfowl as well. Another DPW site we worked with is this one's the water treatment plant, so it's just east of Tunnel Park on the north side of Holland. This was about 5 acres that again, lawn. They were tired of mowing, looking for new options. So we spent an entire year preparing the site, getting rid of what's there. Had really good site prep, so did it for a whole year. We go out and seed in the fall. This would be the following spring. Really nothing was coming up that we didn't want to come up. So you have these pockets of open space that actually allowed us to overseed a lot of these short-lived perennials and annual species like cosmos, chickpea, blanket flower, black-eyed Susan, ton of partridge pea under there. So it's cool because the perennials are still developing under there, but you have a really cool splash of color. I mean, I can't tell you how many calls we got on this, but people trying to climb the fence to take photos.
Yeah.
So quickly once in 1 or 2 seasons as those perennials are coming in. So in the right situation, it's kind of a cool thing that we're able to do. Tierra Yachts has been another awesome client of ours. We've worked with them for over 5 years, actually restored over 20 acres on their site. That's a cool thing. We're getting into some major acreages that some of your more edge sensitive birds are going to provide habitat for them, which we love to see. So this first photo here, again, this was about 5 acres of lawn that just had some wet pockets, wasn't used. So again, we spent a whole year preparing it. It shows you that we've been got 2 years later. See common flowers, black-eyed Susan, little brown-eyed Susan in the back there. Just, promote biodiversity. These projects from seed do take time. It's not instant results. So, generally 3 years from seed is when we're starting to see some of your more longer-lived perennials filling in, and you're wanting to see the native grasses. And then this would have been in 2022. They had an additional 18 acres that was coming out of an agricultural field rotation. So it came out of soybean, which is a perfect candidate to restore. Being a former ag field, weed control is pretty good, so you're not looking at too rigorous of site prep. So we did a little bit of site prep that spring, seeded a little later, but it's kind of cool to see here. These are all mature milkweed sprouting up. So those are not from seed, and you can see where it was kind of isolated on this edge here, getting mowed on one side, ag field on the other. And then 3 weeks post seeding, these were shooting out 100 yards in here. So we're excited to see how that develops. They were corporate, another one right there in Holland, off of M40 and close to M40 in Waverly there. This one was about 15 acres total. Again, preparing that one in 2022 all year. Fall seeding. This is kind of atypical, honestly, too. So this will be the first spring. Generally, we see, black-eyed Susan is pretty easy to start from seed, but some of your other perennials, we expect to take a few years. So you can see a lot of sunflower there. Actually, a little New England aster, I believe, there in the front. And I think that was taken in June. So these next ones will show you September. So it's also fine. Yeah. Again, you can see all those pockets of purple, New England aster, white, I think that's frost aster. See actually a little more sensitive plant here. It takes a little bit of time. So just cool to see, when you do site prep correctly, that's kind of the key to the success of these projects. It's not as simple as throwing some seed on the ground, but if you do it correctly and take the time, you can start to see results pretty quickly. As JD mentioned, our Dragonflies Discovery Preschool is just north of the Park Township office. Go ahead.
Okay, so what's some of the site prep you mentioned doing for bird and you recommend?
Generally on these larger projects, it's going to be repeated herbicide treatments. You used to do a lot of road tilling, but that tends to just kind of destroy your soil structure, and the seed bank is still there. You're just kind of stirring it up. So, mostly just repeated herbicide treatments on a large scale. Smaller scale, you can cover with plastic for 8 to 12 weeks during the growing season, or not sheet mulching with cardboard on a smaller scale. But these large scale, it's the most effective method to minimize disturbance, but still see the positive results. Yeah, so this is Dragonflies Discovery Preschool. That one was at 11 acres total.
11 acre property, but about 7 of that is the infrastructure of buildings and parking lots.
But the rest of the site, it's something we do on all our sites, is we're going to convert every bit of unused space that isn't used for, outdoor learning. If we don't need lawn, it's going to be native. So this is kind of a showpiece of what can be done. Most of it's dry sand, very dry site, but a couple of our rain gardens. You can see most of these projects, I'm talking about it from seed, but you can see one of our guys back actually drilling in holes with an auger where we put in a lot of these plugs. So your purple coneflower, your liatris, see a little cardinal flower over there, and a ton of swamp milkweed as well on the left side. But that's same year. So you're generally not going to see that from seed. So sorry, go ahead.
Okay, do you have to do a lot of maintenance on it, like watering?
Watering, it helps jumpstart. You don't need to. But maintenance, it's mostly going to be from these seeded projects. Sometimes it's quite a bit of mowing that first season. So if you do a dormant fall seeding, you'll kind of keep it mowed to 6 inches, as if noxious weeds are the main big problem. Just kind of prevent those from reseeding. Again, your perennials are developing pretty slowly, so if you're mowing high, you're not disturbing those. And then targeted invasive species treatments are the other main input. And then we generally don't start burning until year 3 or 4 post seeding. But this rain garden is really cool here. You have these upland pockets, kind of where that purple coneflower is. The Beatrice, I've seen hummingbirds there, goldfinches are actually always going crazy there, but
Well, have you been contracted yet on the new section at that spot that has, the Park Township has agreed to preserve as grassland? Are you- All right, then I won't.
I mean, what like flowers will like keep their seed heads and birds like? So like in like the winter, the birds leave the seed heads. Like what flowers really hold their seed?
kind of the whole family of home flowers. So your Rudbeckia, black-eyed Susan, your purple cone flower, your Retivida, yellow cone flowers.
Gray-headed.
Yeah.
Much gray-headed.
Yeah, really a lot of them, honestly. Coreopsis generally kind of float out. Bergamot's another one, which you can come in, early spring, tip them over, and you'll get a handful of those as well.
Spiderwort's another one.
Yeah, a lot of your warm season grasses too will hang on pretty much the whole year until the following spring. Yeah, and again, those hollow stems too. So the Joe Pye there, you're seeing their purple cone flower, leaving those standing as key for insect overwintering as well. Just kind of another shot here of some different areas. A little earlier on, but we vegetated all of our rainwater detention areas, opened up a old culvert drain, and now have an open drain vegetated with native plants. We saw monkey flower, a lot of really cool wetter native plants coming in there. So yeah, kind of just a site where we're trying to do everything we can to promote native, which is what we do at all our sites. Rabbit River Preserve, which Jamie touched on as well, got that back in 2016. Quite a few different habitat types on the property. I mean, we had the whole river corridor. We have hemlock trees kind of coming up the slopes back to, more of a maple beech forest, and then some pockets of more old growth oaks on the east side. So near those pockets of old growth oak and a couple of these other pockets that were just former agricultural field that got infested with weeds, we converted about 8 acres total to 3 of that being oak savanna, 5 of it being more of your conventional upland prairie.
Did you do hemlock treatments there?
But we actually don't have HWA there yet.
Okay, that's good.
But on the horizon, certainly. But yeah, you can see 3 years later, a lot of the same species kind of filling in there. This is just a different vantage point, more on the north side. Yeah, burning's been key to that one too. With the informer ag that was left for a few years, getting the weeds under control was a pretty tough problem there. So a couple burns in, start to see those positive results there. ODC, I mean, another site that we really restored every inch of it that we're not using. I would just like to kind of show this image. This is just a little pocket prairie in front of our admin office. You can see, July, you've got your butterfly weed, your hoary vervain, your little blue stem there, and then coming all the way into October 14th, that aster's just kind of coming into its own, so you're still seeing those blooms all year, which is just what we love to see. And then our front meadow, really cool grassland habitat, kind of a piece of the more typical Midwest tallgrass prairie, what you think of, a lot of Indian grass, big blue stem. Burning is key. We try to burn this every 3 years, but these grasses are really established, and you could try to dig a hole in there and it's makes a barrier from other plants getting in. So the burning's key to help get the forbs to compete a little bit.
Did you ever hear the story about how we created this prairie habitat?
No.
So school groups going back to 2003, Mrs. Minister, maybe you've done this, in the fall, go through that habitat, and kids, we would actively have them drag their hands along the fresh seed heads when the seeds were ripe, and then have them walk, 100 feet from where they are and disperse. So the kids were a part of the expansion of this habitat. So people, they remember that, but it has grown over 20-some years, thanks to second, third, fourth grade hands just dispersing seed.
I'm imagining some preschool walking through.
Again, and we'll finish now with a couple of projects we're really excited about this year. Park Township former airport site. So they removed that runway. We're talking just east of, or just west of the township office, so about 35 to 40 acres total we're looking at restoring. Been pretty neglected over the years. You can kind of see in these photos, I mean, there's a lot of bare spots, and you can see all these, mostly spotted knapweed rosettes. So allelopathic, it's gonna inhibit the growth of most surrounding plants. So getting that under control is gonna be, phase one. But there's some cool little remnant pockets there, you can kind of see what that could be. We got some, little blue stem, some mountain mint, a ton of milkweed, you can see there, I think, and a little bit of creeping dog vein.
So reference points, I don't know if you've ever driven down towards the Holland State Park. This is that airplane. It's up on like a pedestal right here. So you're driving Pebble Beach Road this way. And then this is our preschool in the background there.
Yeah, so this kind of just shows you a map where we're talking about. You can see this a little better. Coming in off Ottawa Beach Drive, you got Dragonfly's Discovery Preschool here. Park Township has another Cooper Bay Park right here. So it's really exciting from that perspective because just the overlap of habitat types. I mean, it's one I'm really excited about. You have your mature forest, you have kind of grassland, that dry stand prairie with some open space oak trees over here. Kind of, we're going to continue that. You're going to have that transitional area of more open space trees, you know, your true forest, and then a massive grassland, which we don't get many of those. A lot of it's just cool to see and where we're at too. With, I mean, a lot of places throughout the Midwest, people are fighting to preserve little pockets, and we actually have people on board to restore a massive acreage like that. So it's just really exciting for me. Go ahead.
So there's a trail near there, just, yeah, right close to there.
Yeah,
About a mile to the east.
thank you. Go ahead.
Where's like the runway, the plane thing? I don't know.
It's kind of right here. You can see it under that.
Yeah. Let's see it.
Yeah, so they ripped that out. So that's kind of there. But yeah, that's one we are really excited about, with the interconnectivity with those other parks. Dragonfly's right there. It's just very excited about that. We're with Saugatuck Township a lot too. This one is about 10 acres off of Riverside Road, just adjacent to the cemetery there. Another kind of old pasture, dry sandy soils, full sun. Got a couple pockets of remnants. You know, mostly your warm season grass with a little bit of milkweed, but 10 acres we're going to do, you know, dry sand prairie mix similar to Park Township. We're going to have some trails through there, potentially some connected trails further down the road as well. So those are the two big ones that we're looking at next year. And I guess if I can give you a takeaway thing, I know I'm talking about a lot of, you know, multi-acre restoration projects, but these are 3 photos I've taken at ODC, all, you know, 10 by 10 feet. They're tiny. If you plant them, you will bring in the insects, which will bring in the birds, which will keep the whole system moving. So really, any scale matters immensely. I mean, we do as many small pocket prairies as we do these large 40-acre projects, and they all matter. So
What's the problem in prairies like that?
generally grasslands, honestly, and especially if you're using the regular humidifier,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
but or in forested areas that I encountered for sure. But
Can you recommend some places where private people can get indigenous species to use in restoration?
seed or more,
Seed or plants?
yeah, Oregon Wildflower Farm is great for seed. There's a lot of good actual plant producers around here too. Wild Type is great. Yeah, if you go to Native Plant Guild, that'll list kind of all the local West Michigan sources, which is a great resource.
County's having the plant sale that will be held in April, right? At the end, and it's
In
Hemlock. So that you can buy the plants, little plant plugs.
They get plugs and things like that. So that's a great way to go about it too. If you need to ask him that question, Tanner, TANNER at outdoordiscovery.org. Share those things. But we also buy from Alpha Nurseries down in Saugatuck area. And then where's another place? There's another one I thought we got from too. Was it just Alpha?
Yeah, that's where we
Just Alpha.
Wonder Kalamazoo.
Trees and shrubs. There was a place on Kalamazoo.
There's the Kalamazoo one.
We bought plants from there a couple of years back now. For the life of me, I can't remember it. It's like this. It's like come into the woods with me, and he goes, and he's got these plants that grow in the woods.
Right, it's like took
We,
David.
we stumbled upon one last year, on our way back from Arcadia Marsh, so we were coming down M22. And there's a guy with a bunch of green.
Black cat.
He's good, and that was great.
Good field trips.
I asked him if he had any speckled alder, and he says, I've been waiting 5 years for you, and he dragged me out back to show me the speckled alder. He was so excited.
All retail. All retail.
The Earth Day show or celebration in Grand Haven in the past has had native plant folks have a table and stuff there, so there might be some resources there coming up.
If you go to the Home Depots and Lowe's and garden center kind of places, you may find something close to, purple coneflower, but it's usually a horticultural variety. So whenever possible, we try to not use those types of varieties because they're somebody's, hybridization of a native plant. So whenever possible, I know. And they have Tanner and the team, they have a greenhouse and they're growing those things. So when we have these projects, you guys have collected seed. Ben was just doing this not long ago. You had seed overwintering, spreading it out and they're planting. So they're doing a lot of the work in-house. Seed. I think that's about it. Is that all you had to? Okay. So, a lot of things that we're doing at Outdoor Discovery Center, or I should say ODC Network. That is truly who we are, ODC Network. And it's just a sample of what we do. Just over 130 people that work for us, from educators to administrators to conservation folks. We build nature playscapes. So as opposed to like a playground that's full of metal and plastic, we're building playgrounds at schools that are made out of logs and rocks and sand and mulch and things like that. So we have a lot of things that we try to do, and it's always in an effort to encourage interactiveness with the natural world, whether it's walking through one of these restored habitats or it's playing in a habitat that encourages wildlife, or just learning more about the things that are in your own backyards. Thank you very much for having us here this evening. If you have any other questions, please shout them out. Yes.
For like a partly shady, like the area, I don't know. What like plants would you use there?
So, fun fact. I think I know a few things about plants.
Library will be closing in 30 minutes.
Check. If you want to challenge Tanner, I encourage you to do so. Send a emailed picture to Tanner of a plant and challenge him to identify it. We do this actually back and forth. Ben and his cohort, myself, and every now and then we'll find something like, what do you think this is? And I like stumping you whenever I can, and I think you guys probably enjoy the same. Shade, and you're talking what type of soil?
Like how wet is it? Or
Yeah, sandy, rich in earthy loam soil,
kind of sandy, sort of wet.
sandy, wet soil. What do you
Kind of
think?
is it like a forest edge, or is it just kind of under some landscape trees?
Didn't realize what he was getting into when he asked the question.
Yeah.
Great question. And if you can think of it, I encourage you to talk to Tanner when we're done here. Come up and ask him a little bit more, because he knows a ton of stuff. Tanner's a really smart guy. We're happy to have him on the team for sure. Should encourage you to challenge him. Okay. Other questions? He loves that. Sure. Yeah.
Are there other organizations in West Michigan similar to you?
Yes, for sure. You've got the county parks that do a ton of great work with their preservation work, their education work.
Out of Gay County?
Yeah, both for that matter, right? And Allegan County Parks are trying to grow that stuff. I think what we do unique is that we try to get into everything, for good or for worse, for better, for worse, because we want to be in the education world, but we also want to be in the conservation world. We want to be in we don't have a nature center. A lot of people think of us as like a nature center place, and we wouldn't say that we're a nature center. We have a visitor center and we have natural areas, but I wouldn't call us a nature center. I think we're more than that. because we also do a lot of things related to sportsman education too. We've led hunter safety trainings before. We do archery classes. We do kayaking, so recreation-based stuff. I don't know of another entity that does all of that specifically. I would love to say that we're special and unique, but I know there's other places that do things too. We're just trying to be part of the big effort and cause. Yeah.
Where's most of your funding come from?
If we looked at our total revenue or total, I think we're at something close to 65% is earned revenue. So that's contract work that Tanner does. It's the school groups that come out to us. It's the asking for money from individuals. So that's earned revenue. That remaining, I think it's somewhere close to 70%, but like that maybe 35% might be our government grants that are related to our education work, or sometimes there's city dollars or something like that that might pay for work. That's still actually earned revenue though. But I think we are at like a 65% earned revenue. Yes, sir.
Grand Haven deciding right now what to do with the old power island.
Yeah.
In a few years, they're gonna tear down the consumers.
Oh,
Plant
yeah.
here in Holland, there's a huge ash field there.
Right.
What kind of restoration could be possibly done in an old ash field?
I have to know a little more context on where you're talking about exactly. Is it, so if I took Lakeshore Drive up here, is that big plant?
So from my understanding, those are challenging ones to restore because you might have compaction of the soil, because if it was a place that had stored coal for years, you've got compacted soil. You might even have slag remnants where they've got the big slag fields. So I think I would have to do a lot of research on how to restore that type of environment.
I was on the walk there last year, and someone who was on the walk worked there too.
For consumers.
Were they going to have to like bring in a lot of slag and stuff?
They're not the cap, yeah. Oh, because yeah, you want to contain that because it might have heavy metals in it, it might be mercury within it, so it's, yeah. Yeah. It's treating it like a landfill, probably. That would make sense. It would almost like treating it like landfill where you cap it and then you can restore. You're not restoring, you're restructuring on top of that if they cap. That's probably the way that you do it. Yeah.
Sometimes with Ottawa County Parks, we get asked about, don't you guys compete with ODC? And absolutely not. We work collaboratively. We love what they do.
We have projects that we work with the county together.
Yeah. So it's not a competitive thing at all.
There's not enough of Ottawa County Parks and ODCs. There needs to be more of us because there's so much more work to be done. In the Ottawa County Parks, I don't even know, do you have any idea what your current acreage is?
It's over 7,000.
That's amazing. I mean, when I started here, I moved to Michigan in 1999 when Ottawa County Parks was just a fledgling organization. It's amazing. 7,000 acres worth of habitat. And a lot of that is in restoration efforts or is being restored or is preserving good habitat already. So that's outstanding. I know. Yay. Thank you again. If you'd like to come up and talk some more, please. Again, you're welcome to any of the things I've brought up here